Andre, I know you played on a college soccer team, so I'd like to ask your opinion about something. Do you think the Olympic athletes and other athletes like soccer and tennis players are too focused on getting money from companies? Every time I turn on the TV, I see a famous athlete in a commercial for some product. Those athletes are getting paid a huge amount of money to be in advertisements. It seems like the athletes are more interested in making money than in representing their countries. I think there is definitely more marketing and business in sports than ever before. As a longtime sports fan, I really think all this money and advertising from big companies is taking something away from sports and competitions.
Well, I would say that all athletes, even the rich and famous ones, are still really focused on the sport. Without the sport, they have no job. And athletes who aren't famous or are only somewhat famous deserve to make all the money they can. Many athletes devote their whole lives to training. How can they live, work, and pay for training all by themselves? Being an athlete, especially one who doesn't get paid, is really expensive. The cost of training is really high, and athletes need to spend a lot of time training to be good at a sport. So big companies might give money to sports teams and individual athletes to help them train. In some competitions, like the Olympics, there are both professional players and amateurs. You know, people who do the sport as a hobby and not as a job. I think both should be able to get support from companies. Look at Novak Djokovic. He's a Serbian tennis player who is paid money by a clothing company to wear their clothes and be in their ads. Other companies support him too. Without all the help from companies, he might not have enough money to play tennis as his job. Having that time and money allows him to be such a good tennis player.
But when a big company pays a team or an athlete, it makes them wear the company name and designs, and they sign contracts. Isn't that really like being an employee and working for a company? To me, these athletes work in advertising and marketing.
You have a point, but if the athletes don't get good training, they might not score a lot of points and do well in competitions. If that happens, they can lose their chance to make a lot of money after the competitions are over. And actually, only about 5% of Olympic athletes get money from big companies to be in ads.
That doesn't sound fair. Shouldn't countries pay their own athletes a salary to train? After all, they do represent the countries. I read that in the UK, the government pays the country's Olympic athletes to train, so there is less pressure there to get money from a company. Also, there are prizes for all the competitions, and sometimes that gives them extra money.
Well, obviously, poorer countries can't usually pay the costs for training athletes. And of course, the countries with lots of money can train their athletes really well. If companies are supporting lots of athletes, more people can participate in competitions.
Still, I think all this money takes something away from the Olympics and other sporting events. We see ads almost everywhere.
But being in a commercial is a great opportunity for the athlete and the business. If an athlete lets his or her face be on a cereal box or wears some clothing with a company's name on it, people will probably buy the product. So it is good for the company and the athlete gets more money to train with. I also think that all the ads at big competitions like the Olympics or the World Cup help lower the ticket prices for fans, so the competitions don't have to charge so much. It's good for everyone.
I'm not sure if I agree with you, but I understand your point.